Did you know that your brain actually has a built-in detoxification system? It's called the glymphatic system, and it's sort of like a dishwasher for your brain. But I want to talk a little bit about why it is so important for your health, when it's most active, how it works, and what you can do to actually improve its function, because it is so important for your brain health. I'm Dr. Heather Modet, and I'm a former integrative and functional medicine doctor turned midlife health educator. And my goal here on YouTube is to bring my 25 years of medicine, both in conventional medicine and integrative medicine, and really help people in midlife and beyond improve their health so that they can live longer, happier, more productive lives. What's crazy is that we didn't even know about the glymphatic system until the year 2000. So when I was in medical school, we didn't know this happened. And you can think about the glymphatic system sort of like the lymphatic system for the body and then the glymphatic system for the brain. So basically what happens is during certain times of sleep, because it doesn't really happen too much while we're awake, cerebrospinal fluid, which is the fluid that is inside the spinal cord and outside of the brain, actually flows in and it starts to exchange waste and metabolic byproducts through this fluid called interstitial fluid, which is what surrounds the cells, like the neurons and the astrocytes of the brain. And by doing this, it's actually able to pull out these toxins and then remove them from the brain. And what's interesting is that they've shown that during sleep, our brain actually slightly shrinks a little bit, and those spaces in between get bigger so that there's more of a flow. Now, one of the most important waste products that is removed from the brain while we sleep is amyloid beta protein and also something called tau. And these are two of the proteins that are found to be very important in Alzheimer's disease. So by removing the beta amyloid every night, because we all make beta amyloid and tau protein, but by removing these, we actually may have a potentially decreased risk of Alzheimer's disease. So let's talk about when we have most activity in our glymphatic system, and that is during deep sleep. Now, our sleep is comprised of light sleep, wakefulness, REM sleep, and what's called non-REM or deep sleep. It's also called slow wave sleep because during deep sleep, we have very slow waves, what are called delta waves, and they're of very high amplitude. So they look really different than any other sleep cycle. So if you think about that, that means you really want to get adequate amounts of deep sleep. And for some people, this really doesn't happen. So we're going to talk about how you can start getting more deep sleep. So there are other things that impair our glymphatic function. One of them, of course, is just aging. And that has partially something to do with the fact that our sleep cycles do change as we get older and we don't have as much deep sleep. But also has to do with the fact that some of us have a lot of vascular changes as we age. So the arterioles in the arteries get stiffer. And so it's really important to have good vascular health because that can help with this glymphatic drainage. The other thing that can impair our glymphatic system is concussions or traumatic brain injury. So this could be anything very serious like, car accidents, military service, anything very severe. But even someone who's had maybe multiple concussions during sports could have problems with the glymphatic system. So there are multiple things that you can do to improve your glymphatic system function. And a lot of it has to do with improving your sleep in general and particularly your deep sleep. Now, like I said, deep sleep comprises a small amount of our sleep throughout the night, but it generally occurs early in the evening. So for example, if you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, you're usually into deep sleep within an hour. And most adults have about 13 to 23% of their total sleep in deep sleep. So say you sleep about 8 hours a night, that could be anywhere between 1 to 2 hours of deep sleep. And the more, the better. So one of the things I like to tell people is try not to stay up really late. So people who tend to go to sleep, say after 1 o'clock in the morning, tend to get less deep sleep. Now, I know some people are night owls, but if you can, try to get to bed on the earlier side and also do this consistently. People who go back and forth with their circadian rhythm, like stay up super late on the weekends and then normal hours during the week, tend to not have as good deep sleep. The other thing that's interesting is they've done studies showing that people who are side sleepers tend to have better glymphatic drainage. Now, that makes me very happy to be a side sleeper. For some reason, because of the anatomy, they saw that people who slept on their right lateral side was the best, and then left side. So sorry if you're a stomach sleeper or if you sleep on your back, which apparently was the worst, but something to consider. A couple other things also can impair deep sleep quality. One is eating too close to bedtime. So people who are eating at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and then trying to go to bed at 10:30, really try to get your last meal in about 3 hours before you go to sleep, and also try to make it not such a heavy meal. The other thing is making sure that you're getting at least about a 12-hour overnight fast. 14's even better. And some studies have shown that intermittent fasting may help as well with improvement of deep sleep. Now, one thing that should be pretty obvious to most people is that alcohol is going to impair glymphatic drainage to a certain extent because it impairs deep sleep. Now, studies have shown that maybe 1 glass of alcohol, 1 to 2 small servings may not be a huge impairment, but really anything beyond that is going to be problematic. And we know that any sort of moderate to heavy chronic alcohol use can be really detrimental on brain health. Another intervention that's so important for improving the quality of deep sleep is exercise. When we do more, say, aerobic exercise during the day, it helps us sleep more deeply. So this is another reason to get out there and lace up your shoes. Another thing that can really impair your glymphatic system function is chronic stress. I'm not talking about intermittent stress, but chronic stress, because over time, when we have excessive amounts of cortisol being secreted by our adrenal glands, excess amounts of adrenaline or epinephrine, this is going to impair our deep sleep. It causes neuroinflammation and puts a huge stress on the brain. So you want to do things that are going to increase chemicals like GABA, which is a more calming and soothing neurotransmitter. And so this could be things like meditation, which specifically has been shown to actually improve and increase deep sleep, but anything that really helps. Some people like to do a meditation before bed, or you could do something like taking a nice warm bath about an hour or 2 before sleep. This also has the added benefit of actually lowering our body temperature right before we go to sleep, which can also improve deep sleep. Another thing having to do with temperature is to have a cold sleeping environment, or at least cool. So people sleep so much better if they sleep in a room that is 67 degrees or less. So really try to shoot for that. Also, being in a room that is dark and is devoid of electronic lights, which can contribute to disruptions in your sleep. And it's obvious that you should avoid a lot of blue light exposure right before bed, or even within about an hour before bed. Many of us are sort of addicted to our tech devices, or we have a TV in the room, and we know that that blue spectrum light hits the back of the retina and actually tells our melatonin to shut off. And melatonin is so important for the initiation of sleep and for our overall sleep quality. Another thing which you've probably heard before is taking magnesium prior to bed. This seems to help with improvement of sleep quality in general and improvement in deep sleep. And you can take lots of different kinds, but probably the ones that have the most data behind them are magnesium threonate, magnesium malate, and also magnesium glycinate. These are all easy forms to find. They're highly absorbable, and they get into they cross the blood-brain barrier very well. So short term, having poor glymphatic system function can result in things like poor memory, brain fog, problems with learning. but it can also impair your immune system and your ability to, repair your tissues. But long term, it's very serious because if your brain's not cleaning itself on the regular, you can be at a much higher risk for, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease. So start really trying to increase your deep sleep. You don't have to wear a tracking device, but there's many on the market. I find it very helpful to track my deep sleep because it gives me a sense of if it was low, was it something that I ate? Was it something that I drank? Was it something, did I have too much caffeine that day? What happened that may have prevented me from having good deep sleep? Because I know that there's no way to actually measure my glymphatic system movements, but I know if I got good deep sleep, most likely it's probably functioning pretty well. So let me know, what is the quality of your sleep? Have you ever tracked your deep sleep? And what of these habits do you tend to incorporate every night? Leave me a comment below and make sure to subscribe and follow for more midlife wellness and health tips. See you next time.